The Secret Tibetan Guide. What happens in the 7 minutes after you die? What really happens in the seconds after you die? Your heart stops. The world fades. And in that silent moment, something extraordinary begins. For thousands of years, Tibetan monks have whispered about this journey, the bardos, the mysterious passages between life and death. They claim that your mind does not simply vanish. It travels, it sees, it creates. Heaven and hell are not places. They are mirrors of your own mind. Every joy, every fear, every hidden desire, unleashed and amplified. This secret knowledge comes from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or Bardo Thödol. It is not just an ancient funeral text. It is a map of consciousness showing what happens after your final breath, and how the life you live now shapes what you will see next. In this journey, you'll discover the moment of death and the hidden opportunity it brings. Why your mind creates gods and demons after life ends. How your desires and fears pull you toward rebirth. And the secret Tibetan masters used to escape the cycle entirely. If you've ever wondered what really waits on the other side, or how to live without fear, stay with me. Because once you understand the bardos, you will never see life the same way again. Chapter 1. The moment between breaths. Death is not always loud. It does not always announce itself with chaos or pain. Often it arrives as a whisper. Sometimes it comes in a hospital bed, where the last sounds you hear are machines slowing down. Sometimes it comes in sleep, where the final dream fades into silence. And sometimes it comes suddenly. A car accident, a fall, a single frozen heartbeat in the middle of life. No matter how it comes, there is always a moment in between, the last exhale, the last pulse of the heart, when the world falls away. The Tibetans call this the Chikai Bardo, the first stage of the after-death journey. It is the threshold between the physical world and the mind's pure experience. In this instant, something miraculous appears. The clear light. The clear light is not a light shining upon you from the outside. It is the essence of your own mind, pure awareness, radiant and boundless. It is like a sky without clouds, a light without source. Have you ever had a moment in life when everything went silent? A near-miss accident, a sudden shock, or even an awe-inspiring sunset, where time seemed to stop and the mind was completely clear? That is a faint echo of the clear light. In death, this clarity comes in full brilliance, a cosmic invitation to see your true nature. The Bardo Thödol teaches that this is the single greatest opportunity for liberation. If, in that moment, you can recognize the light as your own consciousness, free from all illusions, you can awaken completely. No more fear, no more clinging, no more endless cycles of rebirth. But here lies the tragedy. Most people do not recognize it. The mind has been trained for a lifetime to cling to form, to identity, to stories. Even in death, old habits return. The soul instinctively reaches for something familiar. The memory of a loved one, the shape of the body, the echo of a thought. And in that grasping, the light fades. The Tibetans describe it like this. The clear light appears naturally to every being, but for the untrained mind, it is too unfamiliar, too vast. The soul turns away, and the journey into the next bardo begins. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, endless ocean of light. For a moment you are weightless. Then a thought arises. I am afraid. Another follows. I want to go back. And just like that, the ocean begins to ripple, and the pure light fractures into images and visions. This is why Tibetan masters spend their lives preparing for this moment. Through meditation, they learn to let go of attachment to the body and ego. Through visualization, they practice recognizing the clear light. For them, death is not an end, but the ultimate test of awareness. There is a story of a great Lama who, on his deathbed, whispered to his students, "When the light comes, do not chase it, and do not run from it. Recognize it, and you are free." This teaching is profound, because it is also a message for the living. Every day, life gives us small rehearsals for this moment. Moments of stillness, moments of letting go, moments when the old self dies and a new one is born. The way we meet these small deaths, the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, even the fading of a dream, trains the mind for the great one. If we learn to pause, to notice, to let go, we are preparing for the Chikai Bardo. And so, the first lesson of the Bardos is clear. Life and death are not separate. The way you live is the way you will die. And the way you die is the way you will continue your journey. But if the clear light is missed, the path ahead becomes far more complex. The mind begins to create. Visions rise, both beautiful and terrifying. The next stage of the journey awaits. The Bardo of visions, where the gods and demons of your own mind step forward to greet you. Chapter 2. The Hidden Map of Life and Death. The journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath one's feet. Lao Tzu. When the clear light fades, the journey through the Bardos truly begins. For most souls, the brilliance of the first moment of death is overwhelming. It feels like standing in front of a mirror so perfect, so limitless, that you cannot bear to look. And so, the mind turns away. What comes next is not random. It follows a map, an ancient sequence of thresholds that the Tibetans called the Bardos, states of in-between. A Bardo is more than a place. It is a psychological passage, a space where the old has dissolved and the new has not yet formed. And here is the secret. You are walking through Bardos every day of your life, though most of the time you don't notice. Imagine your life as a vast mirror maze. Every turn, every corner, every reflection is you. Some reflections are warm and comforting, some are warped and unsettling, and some are so raw and honest that you want to look away. When you are alive, the mirrors are fogged by distraction. Your phone, your routines, your habits. The reflections are easy to ignore. But in death, the fog lifts, the mirrors sharpen. Every thought, every memory, every fear and desire stares back with perfect clarity. The Tibetans describe 3 great Bardos that appear after death, each one reflecting a different dimension of consciousness. The first, which we have entered, is the Chikai Bardo, the moment of death, where the clear light shines. The second is the Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions, where your own mind begins to create luminous worlds, heavens, hells, gods, and demons. And the third is the Sidpa Bardo, the Bardo of becoming, where your choices, habits, and attachments begin to pull you toward your next life. These stages are not just for the dead. They are the same passages we walk in life, only magnified. Think of a moment when your world shattered. The breakup you never saw coming. The call from a doctor that changed everything. The night you stared at the ceiling, wondering who you were now that everything had changed. That shock, the floor dropping out beneath you, is your Chikai moment, your living encounter with the first Bardo. The days and weeks that follow, filled with emotional storms, memories, dreams, and fears, are your Chonyid Bardo, a theater of the mind where every hidden emotion comes alive. And finally, the slow process of rebuilding your life, of stepping into a new identity, is your Sidpa Bardo, the small rebirth that comes after every ending. Life is full of these mini-deaths. The Tibetans understood that if you can walk through these moments consciously, you are rehearsing for the ultimate transition. If you can face the mirror in life, you will not fear it in death. Modern life is filled with subtle bardos that we barely recognize. Think about scrolling endlessly through your phone, losing track of time. That foggy, suspended state is a kind of bardo of distraction, the old moment gone, the next not yet claimed. Or think about a sudden life change, losing your job, moving to a new city, or finding yourself in the quiet aftermath of an argument. These are bardos of transformation, and how we navigate them shapes who we become. The danger is in moving through these thresholds unconsciously. When we cling to what is familiar, when we resist change, we get trapped. In life, this leads to stagnation and cycles of repetition. In death, it can keep the soul wandering, lost in its own reflections. Have you ever felt yourself holding on to a chapter of your life long after it had already ended? That instinct, that refusal to let go, is the same habit that keeps souls bound in the bardos. The Bardo Thödol is not a book of superstition, it is a manual of awareness. Its lesson is simple but life-changing. Every ending is a mirror. Every mirror is an invitation to awaken. The monks of Tibet devoted their lives to this training. They meditated on impermanence, visualized the clear light, and practiced letting go of every attachment, even to their own bodies. They were rehearsing for the mirror maze, learning to walk through it with eyes wide open. You can begin this practice in your own life. When a chapter ends, instead of clinging, pause. When fear rises, notice it rather than running. When a moment of stillness arrives, embrace it. Each small act of awareness is a step through the living bardos, and a rehearsal for the great one. The map of the bardos is not meant to frighten, but to guide. If the first bardo is the invitation, the next will be the revelation, the moment when the mind begins to project its own worlds in full luminous detail. In the next chapter, we will enter the bardo of visions, where gods and demons appear, and the hall of mirrors of the mind becomes a theater unlike anything you can imagine. Chapter 3. The Clear Light. A doorway beyond fear. Do not fear death, for it is only the end of illusion. Ancient teaching. The journey through the bardos begins with a moment so profound, most of us miss it. The Tibetans call it the Chikai Bardo, the stage of the clear light, the first doorway beyond life. Imagine this. You take your final breath. The heart falls silent. The world you knew, your home, your family, your body, slips away like a fading dream. For a brief, weightless instant, there is no pain, no story, no fear. Only a vast, boundless light. The Tibetans call it the clear light, and they say it is the essence of your own consciousness. It is not outside of you. It does not come from the sun or the stars or any divine figure. It is you, the mind, stripped of illusion, shining with the brilliance it always had. If you've ever experienced a moment of total stillness, you've glimpsed a fraction of this. Think of a car accident narrowly avoided when time slowed to a frozen heartbeat. Think of standing at the edge of a mountain at sunrise, feeling infinite space open inside you. Or that instant of shock where the world goes silent and clear. The clear light is that stillness in its purest form, vast, radiant, unshakable. And here is the first and greatest secret of the bardos. If you recognize this light in the moment after death, you can awaken. Liberation does not require struggle. It does not require prayer or ritual in that moment. It requires only recognition. The moment you see that the light is your true nature, the illusions of self, fear, and separation dissolve. This is the doorway to freedom. But most souls do not recognize it. The tragedy is almost poetic. The truth appears in perfect brilliance, and we look away. Why? Because the mind is conditioned to cling. All your life, you have been grasping for form. Your body, your name, your memories, the people you love. In the first Bardo, those forms are gone. And for the untrained mind, the light feels too vast, too unfamiliar. A single thought can break the connection. Where am I? I want to go back. I'm afraid. And in that instant, the light begins to fade. The Tibetans teach that this moment is like standing before an infinite mirror. The reflection is pure and brilliant. But if you flinch, if you look for something else to hold on to, the mirror darkens, and the journey continues into deeper bardos. It is said that advanced practitioners rehearse this moment throughout their lives. Through meditation, they learn to dissolve the ego and rest in awareness itself. Through visualization, they practice recognizing light, not as an object, but as the very nature of the mind. To them, the clear light is not frightening. It is home. When death comes, they walk into it without hesitation. For those who do not recognize it, the journey shifts. The stillness breaks. The mind begins to move again. Thoughts spark like lightning, emotions ripple like water disturbed, and slowly the infinite light gives way to form. At first, the visions may be gentle, familiar places, faces of loved ones, soft colors floating in darkness. But as the Bardo deepens, the mind's contents begin to take full shape. Fears, desires, memories, everything hidden in life rises into luminous living reality. The Tibetans describe this transition as the beginning of the Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. Here the mind no longer simply observes, it creates. There is a profound lesson here, even for the living. Moments of clarity, moments where we can see life as it truly is, are rare. And most of the time, we let them slip away because the truth feels too raw to hold. Have you ever felt a deep insight rise in you about your life, your relationships, your purpose, and then, almost instantly, watched your mind distract itself, run back to comfort, to habit, to anything familiar? That is the same habit that makes most souls miss the clear light. The first Bardo is a mirror not only for death, but for life itself. It asks a single question. Are you willing to see your own mind clearly? If you remember nothing else from this journey, remember this. The clear light is always there. In life, in death, in every moment of stillness. The key is recognition. This is why the Tibetans call life a preparation for death. Every meditation, every pause, every act of awareness is a rehearsal for the first Bardo. If you can meet the light without fear, the mirror becomes a doorway instead of a trap. But for those who miss the light, the path bends toward the next stage. The mirror maze of the mind awakens in full. Peaceful visions, wrathful visions, heavens and hells, all reflections of your own thoughts, rise to meet you. In the next chapter, we step into the Bardo of visions, the place where the mind becomes a theater of gods and demons, and every reflection you've ever avoided comes to life. Chapter 4. The Inner Theater of Gods and Demons. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Buddha. When the clear light fades, the mind begins to move, and as it moves, it creates. Welcome to the Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. Here, your consciousness becomes a gallery of self that has come alive. Thoughts are no longer invisible whispers. Emotions are no longer hidden currents. Every flicker of the mind takes shape. The Tibetans describe this stage as the inner theater of gods and demons. At first, it may appear as gentle visions, familiar landscapes, colors, even the smiling faces of loved ones. But soon, the full spectrum of the mind unfolds. Brilliant lights blaze. Peaceful deities appear, radiating warmth and compassion. Then, in a sudden shift, terrifying figures emerge, wrathful deities with blazing eyes and thunderous voices, chasing, devouring, roaring. It is a dream, but far more vivid than any dream you've ever known. Because here, in the Chonyid Bardo, there is nowhere to hide. The Tibetans teach that these visions are not external beings, they are you. The peaceful deities are the reflections of your higher nature, your wisdom, love, and compassion. The wrathful deities are your fears, regrets, anger, and shame, finally taking form. The mind is a painter, and the Bardo is its canvas. What you see is the truth of yourself, amplified and inescapable. Have you ever woken from a nightmare with your heart pounding, only to realize it wasn't real? Imagine that, but you cannot wake up because the dream is your mind itself. The key to freedom in this stage is recognition. If you can see the visions for what they are, reflections of your own consciousness, they lose all power over you. The wrathful deities transform into guides. The peaceful deities lead you toward liberation. But for most souls, recognition does not come easily. Fear takes over. The terrifying figures feel real, more real than anything ever experienced in life. The instinct to run, to hide, to fight, overwhelms the mind, and every act of fear feeds the visions, making them more intense. The Bardo Thödol warns that the mind can trap itself here. The more you run from the demons, the bigger and closer they seem. The more you cling to the beautiful visions, the more they slip away. The mind, untrained, does not yet realize that it is dreaming itself. Modern life gives us countless glimpses of this truth. Think about the fears that live in your mind right now. Maybe it's the fear of failure, rejection, or being truly seen. In your imagination, those fears grow into vivid stories, scenes of disaster, judgment, or pain. Your heart races as if they were real. Or consider your desires. The things you crave can become like shining visions in your mind. You chase them, thinking they will bring happiness, only to see them dissolve like mist. This is the Chonyid Bardo in its earthly form, our inner theater playing on loop. The difference is that in life, we can distract ourselves. We scroll, we work, we sleep, we run. In death, there is no escape. Tibetan masters prepared for this stage through a lifetime of meditation. They would visualize peaceful and wrathful deities, meeting them without fear. They trained themselves to recognize every vision as a reflection of mind. When death came, they could walk through the theater calmly, even joyfully. One teacher described it like this: "The mind is a mirror. When you see a demon, bow to it. It is only you in another form." Imagine having that level of awareness in the Bardo. Instead of running from the visions, you meet them with recognition. And in that recognition, fear dissolves. The demons vanish, the gods embrace you, and the mirror maze becomes a path to freedom. But for those who remain trapped in fear or attachment, the Chonyid Bardo eventually fades. The visions grow dim. The peaceful and wrathful deities disappear. And a new force begins to rise, a magnetic pull. This is the beginning of the Tibetan Bardo, the Bardo of becoming, where the energy of your life, your habits, choices, desires, and attachments starts to draw you toward rebirth. If the first Bardo is invitation, and the second Bardo is revelation, the third is gravity. It pulls you toward the next chapter of your existence, whether you are ready or not. In the next chapter, we will enter the Tibetan Bardo, the stage where the invisible threads of your life weave the path to your next birth. Here, the journey of the soul takes its most fateful turn. Chapter 5. The magnetic pull of rebirth. Every action of your life touches on some chord that will vibrate in eternity. Edwin Hubble Chapin. As the visions of gods and demons fade, a new force rises. It is subtle at first, a pull, a whisper, a current that seems to carry you forward. This is the beginning of the Tibetan Bardo, the Bardo of becoming. Here, the mind no longer drifts freely in luminous visions. It begins to feel the weight of gravity, drawn by the invisible threads of karma. The Tibetans describe this stage as the point where your own choices, attachments, and habits shape the path to your next life. Imagine floating in a vast, endless space. All around you, fragments of memory and emotion shimmer like stars. Faces you loved appear and vanish. Moments of joy, regret, anger, and longing flicker in and out. Each one sends out a subtle pull, like tiny magnetic fields tugging at your consciousness. The things you clung to in life now call to you. The desires you never fulfilled, the fears you never faced, the patterns you repeated. They are the gravity of your soul. They pull you toward the next form, the next story, the next mirror maze. The Tibetans teach that karma is not punishment. It is momentum. It is the natural flow of the mind carrying itself into a new reality. If a life was filled with anger and violence, the pull may lead toward worlds that echo that energy: conflict, fear, suffering. If a life was filled with kindness, clarity, and love, the pull may lead toward realms of peace and growth. And for most of us, life is a mixture, a complex pattern of light and shadow, drawing us toward experiences that reflect both. Have you ever noticed how in life you seem to repeat certain patterns without meaning to? The same kind of relationships, the same struggles, the same mistakes, over and over again. It feels like gravity, pulling you into familiar cycles. That is the Sidpa Bardo in miniature. The same currents that shape your life now will shape your path after death. This is why Tibetan masters spent their lives untangling these currents. Through meditation and self-reflection, they learned to see the patterns clearly. Through compassion and letting go, they lightened the pull of attachment. Because the Sidpa Bardo is both a danger and an opportunity. If you are unconscious, the magnetic pull will guide you into another life automatically. You will awaken in a new form, unaware of the forces that carried you there, and the cycle will begin again. But if you recognize the process, even here, even now, you can choose to step off the wheel. The Tibetans describe the Sidpa Bardo as a place of visions and gateways. You may see flashes of landscapes, families, or realms that match your karmic energy. Some doors may feel warm and inviting, others dark and heavy. Each one is a reflection of the life that awaits. The soul in this stage often feels restless. It wants to land somewhere. It wants a new body, a new life, a new story. Even fear can become a kind of magnet, pulling you toward whatever form will let you keep running from yourself. There is a story in the Tibetan teachings of a wandering soul who felt a strong pull toward a beautiful valley filled with light. The soul drifted closer, feeling warmth and safety. Then, in a flash, it realized it was being drawn into a womb, its next life already beginning. The choice had been made not by wisdom, but by habitual desire. This is the heart of the Sidpa Bardo. We are pulled to the familiar, to the emotions and patterns that defined us in life. Unless we awaken, we follow those currents into rebirth. Modern life mirrors this truth in small, quiet ways. Think of how your mind gravitates toward the same distractions, the same emotional loops, the same habits, almost automatically. It's like a river you fall into without noticing. Every scroll, every thought, every reaction deepens the grooves of the mind. What we practice in life, we carry into death. What we cling to now becomes the gravity of the Sidpa Bardo. The great gift of these teachings is that awareness is liberation. If you recognize the pull for what it is, you can make a choice. You can let go of the old patterns, the old fears, the old attachments, and move beyond the cycle of automatic rebirth. Even if liberation is not achieved, awareness changes everything. A soul that sees the threads of its own karma can choose a life that leads to growth, rather than another spiral of suffering. And so, the Sidpa Bardo is the final threshold before the cycle begins again. It is the silent moment where eternity leans forward, asking, "Will you awaken, or will you repeat?" In the next chapter, we will step out of death and back into life, discovering how to train for liberation every single day, so that when this journey comes for us, we can walk it with open eyes. Chapter 6. Training for Liberation in Everyday Life. The trouble is, you think you have time. Zen proverb. The Bardos teach us something life-changing. The way you live is the way you die, and the way you die is the way your consciousness will continue. Most of us spend our lives sleepwalking through transitions. We fear endings, cling to comfort, and distract ourselves from the mirror of our own mind. But every small change, every small loss, every small moment of stillness is a rehearsal for the great journey. If you want to walk the Bardos without fear, you must start here, in this life, right now. The Tibetans understood that liberation does not begin at death, it begins with awareness. Awareness in the smallest moments. Awareness of thought. Awareness of the self that appears and disappears with every heartbeat. You don't need a monastery to practice this. Your life is already a perfect training ground. Think about the last time something in your life ended. Maybe it was a relationship, a job, a dream you quietly buried. How did you meet that ending? Did you cling to it, trying to keep it alive? Or did you pause, breathe, and allow the old self to dissolve so a new one could emerge? Every ending is a living Bardo. Every moment of letting go prepares your mind for the clear light, for the mirror maze, for the final threshold. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for Bardo training. When you sit in silence, you are rehearsing for death. Not in a grim or fearful way, but in a way that allows you to witness the mind clearly. Thoughts rise and fall. Some are peaceful, some are disturbing. If you can learn to watch them without clinging or running, you are learning the exact skill that frees you in the Bardos. Even a single mindful breath contains the secret. The inhale is birth. The exhale is death. And the pause between is the silent space where awareness rests. If you can be fully present in that pause, even for a heartbeat, you are touching the clear light already. Reflection on impermanence is another practice. Everything you love, everything you fear, everything you call yours is temporary. Your body, your memories, your relationships, even your name. This is not meant to make life bleak. It is meant to make life luminous. When you truly accept impermanence, every moment becomes precious. A conversation, a sunset, the sound of laughter. These are treasures because you no longer take them for granted. You know they will pass, and that makes them shine brighter. Compassion is also part of liberation training. The Bardo teachings remind us that everyone is walking through their own mirror maze. Everyone is meeting their fears, their attachments, their shadows. When you see others clearly, you realize that anger and judgment only deepen the cycle. Compassion softens the mind. It untangles the threads of karma. It prepares the heart for the moment when the mirrors appear in their full brilliance. Tibetan masters practiced Tonglen, a meditation of breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out relief. It dissolves the illusion that we are separate. And in the Bardos, where the illusion of separation becomes our greatest trap, this habit of compassion can guide the soul toward light. Even in modern life, you can begin this work. Pause during your day and notice. What are you clinging to? What are you running from? What endings are you refusing to face? The more you practice awareness in life, the more you prepare for clarity in death. Because in the Bardos, there is no escape. Every fear, every desire, every attachment will meet you. If you have met them in life, They will not frighten you in death. There is a quiet joy in this practice. When you live as if every moment is a sacred rehearsal, life becomes vivid. You love more deeply, you forgive more easily. You spend less time in distraction because you know each heartbeat is part of the great journey. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is not a book of death. It is a book of living fully. It teaches us that awareness is the only true freedom, and that liberation begins now. And so, as we prepare to leave the bardos behind and return to life, there is one final lesson. Death is not the enemy. It is the greatest teacher. The last chapter of this journey will show how to live ready to die and why doing so will free you, not only in the next world, but in this one. Chapter 7. The empowering conclusion, living ready to die. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius. After walking through the bardos, from the clear light to the visions of the mind, to the magnetic pull of rebirth, one truth rises above all others. Death is not the end. The journey of the soul is a mirror. It reflects exactly how you lived. Every attachment, every fear, every moment of awareness or unconsciousness echoes into the after-death experience. And this leads us to the most profound realization. If you want to die well, you must live well. The Tibetan Book of the Dead was never truly a book about death. It was a manual for life, disguised as a guide for the dying. Its wisdom whispers through every page. Be aware. Let go. Live with open eyes. Because the way you meet small endings is the way you will meet the great one. Imagine a person who has spent their whole life running from themselves, distracting, avoiding, clinging to possessions, titles, or fleeting pleasures. When death comes, the mirror of the bardos appears, and they are unprepared. They turn away from the clear light. They panic in the theater of gods and demons, and in the Sidpa Bardo, their habits pull them into the next cycle, blind and afraid. Now, imagine someone who has practiced awareness in life. They have learned to pause, to breathe, to notice the shape of their own mind. They have faced their fears with courage, their losses with grace, their joys with gratitude. When death comes, they recognize the clear light as home. The mirror maze does not trap them, it frees them. Living ready to die is not morbid, it is liberating. When you accept that everything is impermanent, life becomes richer. You stop postponing joy. You stop wasting time on grudges or shallow pursuits. You speak your truth, love without holding back, and forgive because you understand that nothing lasts, not even pain. This mindset transforms life into a series of sacred moments. Every conversation, every sunrise, every laugh becomes a treasure, because you know that you are not promised tomorrow. The Tibetans practiced this awareness through meditation, reflection, and compassion. But you can begin in simple ways. Pause and feel your breath, noticing the space between inhale and exhale. Observe your thoughts without judgment, as if they were clouds passing in the sky. Reflect on impermanence, letting it teach you the value of now. Practice compassion, remembering that everyone is walking through their own invisible bardos. Each act of awareness is like a light you carry into the mirror maze. The brighter it shines, the less there is to fear. Perhaps the most comforting lesson of the bardos is that life gives us endless chances. Even if we stumble in death, the cycle of rebirth is another opportunity to awaken. The journey is not a punishment, it is an invitation, repeated again and again until we are ready to see clearly. But why wait? Why not live in a way that when the last breath comes, you can meet it with peace, even joy? Why not prepare so that the clear light feels like home and the mirror maze feels like freedom? As this journey ends, take a breath. Feel it enter, rise, and leave. That single breath contains the secret of the Bardos, life and death, inhale and exhale, beginnings and endings, all part of the same infinite rhythm. When the last exhale comes, may you meet it with open eyes. When the mirror appears, may you recognize yourself in the light. And when the time to choose comes, may you awaken to the truth that has always been with you. You were never separate. You were never lost. You were the light all along.